Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to the Hope Effect, episode 3. Today we are going to talk about when stress lives in the body. So we're going to connect all things anxiety, hormones, the nervous system, the gut, and how manifestation from our episode last week ties all into that. Before we go deep today, I want to say something pretty important before we start out. Everything I share on this show is educational. It is not medical advice. It is not a substitute for working with your doctor or a therapist, your functional medicine provider, or any other member of your care team. What it is, I want to provide information that I believe every woman, every human deserves to have. Because understanding your own body is the beginning of everything. So take what lands, bring it to your practitioners, and always trust yourself. Even at my current workplace, I tell my patients that you are your best advocate. You know your body better than anybody. So this platform is really learning how to gain that self-awareness so you can make better judgment on how to manifest the life you want to live. All right. So, have you ever been sitting in the middle of like a normal day, normal life at your desk, in your car, lying in your bed, and then suddenly your stomach drops? Your heart starts beating faster, your chest feels tight, maybe your jaw is even clenched and you don't even notice it until just now. Maybe you couldn't eat today. Maybe you couldn't stop, like stop, go, 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 go. That's typically how I function through a day. I go and I don't stop to even use a bathroom break. I forget to eat until it's 2:30 and I'm wondering why I'm going through a crash, and then no wonder my health is where it's at. Or maybe you haven't slept well in a long time, so you've forgotten what rested actually feels like. Maybe you've had a flare, or your gut, your skin, your joints, and you've asked yourself the question I used to ask myself all the time: why is my body doing this to me? I want to offer you a different question today. What if your body isn't doing something to you? What if it's doing something for you? Because stress doesn't live in your head, it travels through your nervous system, into your hormones, into your brain, into your gut, into your microbiome, into your immune system, into the places you've been trying to explain to doctors for years. And today we're going to look at and follow that entire path all the way through. And then we're going to talk about how to change it. So, welcome back to the Hope Effect. I'm Hope, and today we are diving deep. If you followed along, you have learned that I have a biomedical background with a yoga background. I'm very deeply educated in the nervous system and the gut and microbiome, and through my personal experience, I've started studying how chronic stress affects all of that and how everything's connected. So, very exciting. Thank you for joining today. If it's your first one, let's see. All right, in our first episode, we talked about chronic stress and the nervous system, what it is, why it matters, and why so many of us are living in it and not even realizing it. In our second episode, we went into manifestation and energy and why the way you feel shapes what you're able to create. Today is where those two conversations collide. I'm very excited because here's what I want you to see. Most people understand stress like this: stress happens, anxiety follows, the end. But that's not what actually is happening in your body. What actually is happening looks more like this. Stress activates your nervous system. Your nervous system triggers a hormone cascade. Those hormones then change how your brain processes threat. Your brain signals your gut reshapes your microbiome influences your immune system, and your immune system affects everything. So your body is not a collection of separate problems. It's one singular conversation, multiple conversations, but your body is one conversation. And once you understand that, once you can see the whole chain, the big picture, you stop feeling crazy. You start feeling informed. And informed is where healing begins. Your body's not falling apart. It's been having a conversation you were never taught to hear. We're going to start with the nervous system first, and it's got 4 responses. Most people only know about fight or flight. Your body perceives danger, adrenaline surges, heart rate spikes. You either stand your ground or you run. But I'll tell you something that took me a long time to understand. There are actually 4 nervous system responses, not just 2. There's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And most of us, especially women, are living in the last 2. Let's see. Well, we'll start with fight. In this stage, you get angry, you snap, you argue, you feel a surge of rage that seems completely out of proportion to what just happened. Someone sends you an email and you feel your whole body react to it. That's not a character flaw. That's your nervous system saying, I am not safe and I'm going to push back. Flight is you get busy, you avoid, you overwork, you overschedule, you feel every single hour because if you slow down, you might have to feel something. Flight doesn't always look like running away, but sometimes flight looks like productivity. It's still running. And then we have freeze. This one gets the most silence. In freeze, you go numb, you can't make decisions. You lie on the couch and scroll for 2 hours and you're not sure how you got there. You feel paralyzed, disconnected, like you're watching your life from behind glass. This is the one most people never recognize as a stress response. They call it laziness. We think of it as ourselves being broken, but it isn't, and you aren't, and we aren't, they aren't. It is freeze. It's the nervous system shutting down because it's been on too long. And then we have the fawn phase. This is where you people please, you over explain, you shrink yourself to fit the room. You say yes when every cell in your body is screaming no. You manage other people's emotions before you even check in with your own. You keep the peace, even at the cost of your own peace. Fawn doesn't feel like survival, it feels like love. That's what makes it so hard to stop. So I want to ask you something right now, not as a test, but as an act of self-compassion. Which one is yours? Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? Because naming it, just seeing it clearly is the beginning of something, and it's the first moment of choice. I would say I do spend a lot of time in fawn. Actually, let's just go backwards. I've been in freeze and fawn in early 20s. Sometimes I can go there when I get in a funk because I've been in fight or flight so much. Fight or flight, I stay in every day at my work environment. So then when I come home, I go into that freeze and fawn state. It's not so much fun. I'm learning how to get out of it and regulate. And thank God for my husband for being patient. He's a winner. Funny thing is, there's 4 phases, but most of us are really living in the last 2. So if you go back and really think to yourself, that freeze and fawn where you're paralyzed, you're constantly scrolling on social media, addicted to your phone, you're paralyzed, you're not lazy. Try to think of a way to be nicer to yourself when you talk to yourself about that. Like your nervous system needs time to calm down. You're not lazy, you're burnout, so to speak. And then in the fawn stage, it's like a survival mode, but it feels like love. So it's kind of hard to stop. That's where you people please and over explain. Give yourself grace to work through that too. I do that when I come home after I've had a long week. I'm just like, do you need anything? I'm sorry. Am I in the way? It's silly, but all of us have gone through these things. And it's very real. The very first big step is being honest with yourself and self-reflecting. If you're not capable of self-reflecting, you're not going to get very far. Now we're going to go into part two, which is there's a hormone that nobody ever warned us about. When your nervous system activates, when fight, flight, freeze, or fawn kicks in, your body releases hormones. Two that you've probably heard of and are familiar with are adrenaline and cortisol. Adrenaline, that surge, and then the cortisol is stress. Adrenaline is the sprinter, fast, urgent, burns out quickly. It's that immediate jolt when someone shocks you. Cortisol is different though. Cortisol is the marathon runner, slower, steadier, and in chronic stress, it almost never comes down. This is where I've been for, Lord, I'd say a year. Medically wise, I've got proof for over the last 6 months, but cortisol is very important to get under control. But here's what I want to walk you through, because this is the part I think that will make a lot of things click. When cortisol stays elevated over time, sleep becomes impossible. Cortisol blocks melatonin, that hormone that tells your body it's safe to rest. You're exhausted, but you can't turn off. You lie down and your mind races. You wake up at 2 a.m. for no reason. That's me. That is not insomnia from nowhere. That is cortisol telling your body the threat isn't over yet. Weight changes, especially around the belly. Your body stores fat as emergency fuel when it becomes danger, or when it believes, not becoming. When your nervous system believes that danger is ongoing and it doesn't really see an end. So this is not a willpower problem. It's biology doing exactly what it was designed to do. Your body needs fuel, and when your cortisol is not regulated, it's got to figure out a way to store that. And unfortunately, a lot of us women deal with those weight issues. Your cycle can become unpredictable. Cortisol competes directly with progesterone, the calming, protective hormone that regulates your cycle. So when cortisol is chronically high, progesterone gets sacrificed. Irregular periods, worse PMS, heavier bleeding. This is your body prioritizing survival over reproduction. I've had experience with my cycle being irregular. Sorry, guys, if you're listening, if you want some guy advice, message me individually, please. I've got that information as well. Libido disappears when your body believes it's in danger. It doesn't prioritize connection. It prioritizes just getting through the day. This is where I am most of the time. I don't necessarily dread the day anymore. I've learned to take a step back and prioritize where my connection needs to be and what I need to let go. But I, most of the time, function just to get through the day so I can enjoy getting home. Immunity weakness is going to happen. You catch everything, you heal slowly. The immune system gets dialed down when cortisol is running the show. My personal, I get sick every time my kids get sick. I've got a type 1 diabetic. She's autoimmune sacrifice. She's going to get sick with everything in school. I've also got a 2-year-old in daycare. She's going to get sick. And then lo and behold, I get sick. And immune system sucks. Now I've got some other flare going on. So cortisol, I believe wholeheartedly, my chronic stress has caused me to be where I am now. And then the brain fog sets in. Any of you that's listened to me so far, sometimes I can get lost in the middle of a sentence. If you work with me, you see that all the time. Some of the teams that I lead, the girls and I laugh about it because I'm just like, guys, bear with me. I lost my sentence. And they're really great at making it fun and get me back on target. So it takes a village, and my village is wonderful. I'm very grateful for that. But when brain fog sets in, cortisol impairs memory and concentration. The sharp, clear thinking woman or person you used to be feels harder to access. That's not you aging, that's cortisol. So now I want to ask you another question. How many of those did you just recognize in yourself? Sleep becomes impossible, weight changes, especially around the belly, your cycle becomes unpredictable, libido disappears, your immunity weakens, and brain fog sets in. If the answer is most of them, I want you to really listen to this and soak it in. Your body's not broken. Your body's responding, and there's a difference. Cortisol is not the villain. It's the messenger that never got to deliver the message and go home. So if you're experiencing a lot of these things, what we tend to do is beat ourselves up. I'm lazy. What's this doing? I can't keep up. Life is so busy. Take a moment to pause and step back. There's no reason to beat yourself up. This is your body telling you something is going on, and you need to pause and listen to it. If you don't pause, you're never going to get out of the debilitating loop that it will put you in. Let's see. Now, I love talking about the brain. So we're going to talk about the brain and chronic stress building in the brain and how it affects everything. So not in a clinical way. I don't want to talk about this in a clinical way, but more so in a you've been living this way. The brain is not fixed. It's not set in stone. It physically changes, restructures based on what you repeatedly experience. This is called neuroplasticity, and it is one of the most helpful things in neuroscience because it means that the brain that stress built can be rebuilt. But first, let's understand what stress has been doing in there. We have the amygdala. I don't know if I love studying about the amygdala. It is your body's natural alarm system. It's deep inside your brain. It sits a small structure. I think I have a graphic for it on the slide. You'll see it. But its job is threat detection. It scans your environment constantly, asking one question. It's a very important question. Am I safe? That's the question your brain is asking. Under chronic stress, the amygdala becomes hypersensitive. It grows. It becomes more reactive. It starts flagging things as threats that are not threats. Think of a smoke detector in a kitchen. A healthy smoke detector goes off when there's a fire. A stressed amygdala goes off when someone burns toast. An email notification, a certain tone of voice, a look someone gives you, a news headline you scroll past at 10 p.m. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference. It just is going to fire every single time. And then we have the prefrontal cortex. At the front of your brain sits this area. This is where reason lives. So planning, perspective, the ability to pause and choose a response instead of just reacting. Under chronic stress, here's what happens. Access to the prefrontal cortex gets harder. The amygdala actually gets louder, and then the thinking brain gets quieter. This is why you can know intellectually completely that everything is fine, but still feel like the world's ending. That's not a weakness. That's not you being dramatic. That's physiology. This is very real. Logic lives in one part of the brain. Survival lives in another. And survival is always going to win. Always, 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 until we teach the body it's safe. You have to do that work. That is the most important message here. You can't just read some of these things and not start creating habits for yourself and getting yourself, you have to do the self-work, period. Everything's fine, still can't calm down. Again, that's not weakness. That's just what chronic stress is doing to your brain. Again, give yourself some grace. Don't talk down to yourself. Understand that your body's doing exactly what it was designed to do, and it's trying to tell you something. So if you're not listening, that's on you. You've got to start learning to be aware and listen to the body and be okay with giving yourself the grace to slow down and figure out how to interpret what's going on. My next favorite topic is how the gut works and how it talks to your brain. Let's see. So this really completely changed how I understand my own body. Most of us were taught that the brain controls everything. Brain sends the signals, body follows instructions. Simple hierarchy. That is not how your gut works. Your gut has its own nervous system. It's called the enteric nervous system, and it contains, what is it? Oh, it's a lot. It's a very high number. It contains somewhere between 100 and up to 500 million nerve cells. That's a lot. More neurons than your spinal cord. Scientists call it your second brain, not poetically, but anatomically. Your gut and your brain are connected by a nerve called the vagus nerve. Think of it as a 2-lane biological highway running from your brain stem all the way through your heart, your lungs, your entire digestive system. We talked about the vagus nerve in episode 2. Now, here's the part that I want you to actually stop and take in. Approximately 80% of the signals on the vagus nerve travel from your gut up to your brain. Not from your brain down to your gut, but from your gut up. Let me read that again. 80%, approximately 80% of the signals of the vagus nerve travel from your gut up to your brain. Not from your brain down, but from your gut up. Your gut is not just responding to how you feel, your gut is helping create how you feel. It is constantly sending reports upward, and those reports influence your emotional experience, your perception of safety, your anxiety level, and your mood. So when you've been told it's all in your head, it was never just in your head. Some of it was in your gut, and your gut was telling your head what to think. Stanford University just put out an article on this about how your gut technically functions more so as a brain than your brain does. If you guys are interested in that link, I'll drop it in the comments. Finally, America has a study to support that, so maybe we'll catch up with the other countries in a decade. We'll see. But let's go back. So think about the last time you were nervous before something important. A presentation, a hard conversation, a medical appointment. What did you feel? Butterflies, maybe a little nauseous, maybe you had to run to the bathroom. Appetite vanished completely, your mouth went dry. That's what mine does even now. Let me just go and remind myself to drink some water. But that's not your imagination. This is your nervous system activating your gut, and your gut firing signals straight back to your brain, creating that feedback loop that made the anxiety stronger. So when stress becomes chronic, that loop runs all day, every day. Digestion slows, the gut lining thins, pain sensitivity rises, inflammation builds, and it gets felt everywhere, not just in the gut. Your gut is not separate from anxiety. Your gut is part of the conversation that creates it. Now we're going to really talk about our body's universe, which is the microbiome. So think of it as so your nervous system is like a universe living inside of you. And it's not just millions of microorganisms, it's trillions. Not millions, not billions, but trillions. Bacteria, fungi, viruses, an entire ecosystem in your gut called the microbiome. And this ecosystem is not just about digestion. When you hear bacteria, fungi, and viruses, that is not negative. Your microbiome, just like any other biome on the earth, it consists of those things. You have to have breathing, living bacteria, fungi, and viruses to be able to have a microbiome that functions. It's all about regulation and creating a healthy microbiome. But the ecosystem is not just about digestion. It is one of the most powerful regulators of your mental health, your immune function, your inflammation levels, and your mood. So the statistic that made me sit down when I first heard it, approximately 90% of your body's serotonin is produced in your gut, not primarily in your brain, in your gut. How funny is that? In America, when we go to the doctor, they want to shove medicine down our throat to tell us our brain's imbalanced, when in reality, let's just focus on our gut here. The same systems that's been flooded with stress signals and in producing the neurotransmitter that's mostly associated with your sense of calm, safety, and well being. So, when the microbiome is healthy, diverse, thriving, well nourished, it supports mood, reduces inflammation, and helps regulate the stress response. When chronic stress disrupts it, diversity drops, inflammation rises, mood follows. And the loop that I want you to see here is that stress disrupts the microbiome. A disrupted microbiome amplifies stress. So back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until one day the gut feels reactive all the time and you've been told, oh, it's just anxiety. And you've tried to manage it with your mind and it keeps coming back because you weren't treating the whole system. You were treating the symptom, not the source. I want to give just a gentle clarification around this. So it does not mean that probiotics cure anxiety. Probiotics are very important to establish a healthy microbiome, but that does not cure your anxiety. It does not mean gut health replaces your doctor, your therapist, or your medication. It means the body is connected in ways that most of us were never taught. And that caring for your gut is one real meaningful daily act of healing. Personally, this is where I focus. My gut controls my entire nervous system. That's why I'm the situation I am. This is why I'm doing the podcast. So here we are. So if you can focus on your gut, find a local pharmacy or a doctor, therapist, whatever, and get some good supplements. Get a good probiotic. You'll be surprised once you get your gut in line and regulated how much of your problems like inflammation, stress, brain fog, all those things will start to settle. So your gut doesn't just affect your digestion, it affects your mood, your immunity, your ability to feel safe in your own body. Now we're going to go into the hidden cascades of inflammation, immunity, and the sleep loop. So I think this connects a lot of dots for a lot of women, especially. Man, I don't want to exclude you, but with hormones and stuff, it's easier for me to focus on this, but feel free to reach out. Chronic stress causes chronic inflammation, not the acute inflammation that heals a cut or fights an infection, but low grade, systematic, whole body inflammation that runs quietly in the background for months, for years, and shows up in ways that seem completely unrelated to stress. Depression and anxiety, let's start there. So depression and anxiety, inflammation in the brain affects neurotransmitter production. And then we have autoimmune flares, and the immune system under chronic strain can start attacking its own tissue. This is where I live. Skin conditions such as acne, eczema, psoriasis, they often have an inflammatory root. So again, stress, joint pain, muscle aches, the deep fatigue that sleep doesn't fix, brain fog, the inability to think clearly no matter how much caffeine you consume. What if they're not separate problems? What if they are one stressed, inflamed, overwhelmed body expressing itself in every system it touches? Your body's not attacking itself for no reason. It is exhausted from fighting a war that has never ended. So now let's go into sleep, that casualty that nobody talks about. So I think this might be the most universal experience of this episode. So figuratively, if you want to sit in your chair over there, raise your hand, or I guess think about it. Since you're probably driving or working out, laying down, how many of you are exhausted but can't sleep? You lie down, your brain turns on, you fall asleep, wake up at 2 a.m. with your mind racing, you sleep 8 hours and wake up more tired than when you went to bed. That's me. Check, 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 check. I fit all of those. That is not a mystery. That's cortisol pattern. That cortisol hormone that controls your stress. So here's how the loop works. When cortisol elevates, melatonin gets blocked, sleep becomes shallow or broken. The body doesn't repair. Cortisol elevates even more. Stress increases and the loop tightens. Cortisol is supposed to be high in the morning to get you out of bed and low at night so melatonin can rise and your body can rest. When you're under chronic stress, that rhythm gets inverted. You're wired at night and exhausted in the morning, and the world tells you to drink more coffee and push through. But here's what's actually happening when you're not sleeping: your brain is not clearing inflammatory waste, your cortisol is not resetting, your gut is not repairing, your nervous system is not recovering, and your emotional memories are not being processed. We've talked over, I think it was the last episode, how emotions and your stress affect how you remember things and how you show up to your day to day. So every system we've talked about today gets worse without sleep, every single one of them. So when I say rest is medicine, I mean that it is literally as I mean anything on this show. Choosing to rest in a culture that celebrates busyness is one of the most radical acts of self trust available to you. I know for me, sometimes it feels like I have to have permission to rest. My husband and I talk about it a lot. We keep each other in check of like, hey, slow down, go take a break. It's okay. You don't have to be winning every day and having 600 tasks completed every day. Rest and sleep are crucial. So you're not wired and exhausted because something's wrong with you. You're wired and exhausted because your cortisol never got the signal that the war is over. Now let's go into the body map. I'm going to do something a little different right now. I'm going to stop talking and I want you to listen to your body instead. If you can safely close your eyes, close them. If you're driving, stay present, but soften. Take one breath in through your nose. Hold it just for a moment and then let it go slowly. Now, I want you to scan your body, starting at the top of your head, moving slowly downward. Your jaw. Are you clenching, holding, bracing for something? Your neck and your shoulders. Are they pulled up towards your ears, carrying something invisible? Your chest. Are you breathing fully or is it shallow and tight and held? Your stomach and your gut. Is there tightness, nausea, something sitting heavy there? Your hips and your lower back. Are you gripping, protecting, bracing at the core? Your hands. Are they fisted, tense, ready to react? Wherever you found tension, that is where your nervous system is storing the story. Not as punishment, not because you're doing something wrong, but because your body has been trying to protect you and it doesn't know the threat is gone. Place one hand right now wherever you found the most tension and say this silently or out loud. Mine is going to be over my gut. And repeat this silently to yourself or out loud. I believe out loud is better. That's my personal choice. But once you put those words out into the world, they are out there. You're manifesting. But whatever you're comfortable with, place your hand over where you felt that tension and say this to yourself. I feel you. I am listening and I am safe. That is not a magic spell. That is a nervous system cue. You are beginning to give your body a different message. Again, I always say like my gut is my major problem. I have to constantly remind myself to relax my shoulders. I don't know if you can hear this, but if you hear those pops, that's the stress that I hold in my shoulders. And then I'm constantly relaxing my jaw throughout the day and just keeping myself in little checks. But healing begins the moment you stop being afraid of your own body signals and start getting curious about them. So, how does manifestation fit into this? So, let's talk about it, but I want to redefine it. not as positive thinking, not as vision boards, good vibes, and pretending your symptoms don't exist, but not even as something that works for other people but has never quite worked for you. I want to offer you manifestation as a nervous system practice because here's what the science tells us. Your brain changes through repetition. What you rehearse, you reinforce. The nervous system learns through repeated cues of safety, of threat, of possibility, of fear. Identity, the story you tell about who you are, shapes your biological response to the world, which means that every single day you are practicing something. You are either practicing fear, scarcity, catastrophe, survival, or you are practicing safety, possibility, trust, and healing. And what you practice, your brain gets better at. So when someone has been in survival mode for years, rehearsing danger, rehearsing worst case, scanning for threats, and then they try to manifest abundance or healing and peace, their nervous system doesn't know how to receive it. Because their body has been trained to believe that threat is permanent. Your manifestations aren't being blocked by the universe, they're being blocked by a nervous system that doesn't feel safe enough to receive them. Real manifestation is not pretending you are healed. It's not denying that the symptoms are real. It's not toxic positivity. Real manifestation is the daily, deliberate, courageous practice of choosing safety, even when fear is louder, even when the evidence hasn't arrived yet, and even when your body is still catching up. That is not naive, that is neurological. And that's what this brand, the Hope Effect, is built on. I constantly, from my personal experience, have to give myself that grace and realize how I was brought into this world and some of the choices I've made and just how my life has gone. It's been great, but I've had to really learn how to learn my nervous system and learn how to be very deliberate and intentional in how I show up to my day to day. So I can break what I like to call generational curses. I believe in breaking those. I think that's what drives my nervous system into the chaotic state that it stays in. Work environment doesn't help that either, but you hear me say generational curses. That'll be a time for another episode, but I show up daily and intentional to make sure I'm on a path to stay true to myself and what I want out of my life for me and my family. So manifestation is not pretending you're healed. It is that intentional practice, the practicing the identity of someone who believes healing is possible. And you've got to practice it until the body believes it too. So before we close today, I want to give you something to take with you, something you can use today, something you can come back to whenever the loop starts tightening. This is what I call the safety return. It's a 3-minute practice. I do this a lot. Some of my teammates kind of make fun of me for it because I'll do it sitting in the middle of a chair when we don't have patients in the room. But it's not complicated. It's not a protocol. It does not require anything except your breath and your willingness. And it works because it's not just spiritual intention. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It sends a measurable signal to the amygdala that the threat is over. It is science and spirit doing the same thing at the same time. So we're going to go through this slowly. Step 1, we're going to ground ourselves. Feel your feet on the floor. Sometimes I like to go barefoot outside and feel my feet on the grass, whatever works for you. But feel your feet on the floor. Feel the weight of your body wherever you're sitting. You are here. You are present. This moment is real and you are in it. Step 2 is breathing. We're going to inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale slowly for 6. And you want to do that through your nose. You want to inhale through your nose and slowly exhale through your nose. That controls your oxygen intake and your carbon dioxide release. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, Exhale slowly for 6. That extended exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's brake pedal. Do it 3 times. I'll do it with you. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale slowly for 6. Now again, inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale slowly for 6. Now do it again one more time on your own. Inhale for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale slowly for 6. So now let's do a scan. Where are you holding tension right now? Place one hand there. Don't try to fix it. Don't judge it. Don't push it away. Just acknowledge it. Say, I feel you. I am listening. Speak. I am safe in this moment. My body is allowed to soften. I can notice my symptoms without becoming afraid of them. I am not my stress response. I am the one who can choose something different. Healing is available to me, and I am moving toward it. Those affirmations are so important. Say those to yourself repeatedly throughout the day. I don't care how many times. I do it very often. Now ask yourself this one question. What would the healed version of me choose right now? Maybe she rests when she would have pushed through. Maybe she eats something nourishing when she would have skipped it. Maybe she says no when every old pattern says yes. Maybe she takes the walk, cancels the thing, maybe even asks for help for once. Maybe she finally believes that peace is not something that she has to earn. Choose one thing, just one thing, and do it. That is not a small thing. That is a signal to every system we talked about today. That is a new message traveling through the nervous system, through the hormones, through the brain, through the gut, through the microbiome, through the immune system. And that is the hope effect in action. So for closing, just a reminder, the body is always listening. It listens to your thoughts, to your environment, to your relationships, to the food you eat, to the way you breathe, to whether you keep forcing yourself through life, or whether you finally start creating safety. Stress may start in the mind, but it does not stay there. It travels through the nervous system. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It floods the body with cortisol that disrupts your sleep, your hormones, your cycles, your mood. It changes the brain, making fear louder and reason quieter. It signals the gut, your second brain. Personally, I like to call it the main brain. And the trillions of organisms shaping everything from your serotonin to your immunity. It inflames every system that it touches. But healing travels through those same systems. A calm breath is a signal. A boundary is a signal. A nourishing meal is a signal. A full night of sleep is a signal. A belief you choose deliberately, on purpose, and even when fear is louder is a signal. Your body's not broken. Your body's been trying to protect you. It's been doing the best it could with what it's been given. And now you're going to give it something different. You're going to give it safety. You're going to give it truth. You're going to give it rest and nourishment and boundaries and breath and the radical belief that you deserve to feel well. That is manifestation, real manifestation, not wishing, not pretending, practicing every single day, one signal at a time. That's the Hope Effect. Thanks again for being here. I will see you in the next one. If you would like some help on any of those breath works, or maybe some ideas to get yourself some habits, comment, message. I'd love to hear it. Thanks, guys. Happy Saturday.